Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Bolger, and I'm founder of the Brand Media Coalition, which is a division of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance. And we're committed to helping organizations maximize the results of the rewards, recognition, gifting, and loyalty programs through the effective and strategic approach of brands. And here today to speak with three people who are at the front lines of this entire issue, uh, starting with Eric Pehrson. He's promotional problem solver at Creative Studio Promotions, a really cutting edge promotional company in beautiful Grand Rapids, Michigan, one of my favorite towns in the Midwest. We've got Woody Kay. He's president and CEO of Corporate Values. They're a branded promotional products and brand communication solution company based in Long Island. And finally, Guy Accent, he's president of the Marketing and Sales Group, Inc., and the Promotional Bookstore. And he is a incentive rep who's been working with promotional products distributors for years. So, gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce.
Thank
So,
you.
Guy, I'd like to start with you. Um, you've seen so many, you've been in the business now for about 30 years, and there are about 20,000 promotional products distributors out there, roughly. There are actually more, but probably about 20,000 are active. But really, probably not even more than 1,000 or so are actively involved with brands or incentive or engagement programs. Guy, why do you think that is?
I think there's a couple reasons, Bruce. Uh, First and foremost might be their comfort level of acquisition. Where do I find these brands? How do I sell them? They're very used to working with what they consider to be brands in the promotional industry, which in retrospect are not brands. They're companies within our industry. But the brands themselves are just like every other promotional brand. They're just not as comfortable reaching out to them, knowing who to go to. And maybe part of that is the brand's problem and fault itself to make it more accessible and work within the industry. But the fact of the matter is, I think a big portion of that is understanding how brands work, that it's truly no different than any other promotional product that's out there. And maybe it's just an education on how to reach them.
Mm. Well, Woody, your business was started over 20 years ago. And I think you have one of the best websites in the industry, by the way. I think the way you position your services is far beyond so many promotional products distributors, because you don't focus on product, you focus on creativity. What got you into brands? Why did you start offering brands as part of your mix?
But thanks for that question, and thanks for inviting me to be on this, Bruce. I think one of the things, which I'll expand a little bit on what Guy said, is education. I think a lot of our clients automatically assume that when they introduce the concept of co-branding, which is really what they want to do, they want to take a retail brand and add theirs to it that will give it a lot more longevity. But their assumption is that the price jump is going to be more than they can handle. So when we inform them, educate them that it's maybe 10, 15%, they may buy less goods, but the value of that is going to really increase and energize their brand more than just a generic piece off the ship, so to speak.
And it seems to me, following your business, Woody, that your focus on brands has actually increased over the last few years. We know the pandemic created unique situations, but is that true? Is it my imagination, or have your clients really begun to understand that, and that you're selling more brands now than you ever have?
I think that's true. There's no doubt about it. I think their education has increased. They know that a lot of the retail brands have gotten into the corporate promotional space. So they know that it's available, and it's just the challenge for us is to make sure we show them good, better, best in the branded category so they see what's out there. And I would also add that the supply chain has seen the opportunity here too. So they make our lives a little bit easier. So trying to find the right suppliers that can fill in the gaps so that we can show them the clients a full array of what's out there has helped us as well.
Thank you. Eric, I've really been impressed with your company. You guys have really done a heck of a job positioning yourself, like Woody's company for that matter, as a solution provider, and not, with all due respect to my New York friends, tchotchke suppliers. you guys really seem to be focused on selling programs. Could you tell us a little bit about what got you into selling recognition programs, company stores, and brands?
Yeah, of course. It's really been an interesting journey for us. It really started, as mentioned in my official title there, I want to be a promotional problem solver. And what we saw was a need from a lot of our clients for these type of items. And in some cases, we found out that they were already sourcing these from other places. So we kind of sat down and talked and thought, well, let's try and, we want to be a one-stop shop. Let's try and centralize all this stuff. It's a benefit for the clients. They kind of have that one-stop shop, one central connection there. But again, it was based on a need from our clients. They wanted something, maybe, something more than your traditional tumblers or journals or whatnot, kind of like Guy mentioned, they wanted to, venture away from some of the traditional channels in our industry. They wanted those brands, as Woody mentioned, that they wanted that brand recognition. And we were in a position where we're able to help take care of them and fulfill those needs. So it's really a win-win for both our clients and for our company.
Now, a lot of distributors, when they talk about brands, they complain, like Woody referred to the fact that he's found very good suppliers, but a lot of them complain, well, I can't make the same margins. I can get 40% on my $700 order for promotional products, whereas I can't get those brands. I'm going to turn to you in a minute on Guy, but what do you say to that, Eric? This issue of margins, has that stopped you folks from selling brands?
Not at all. Not at all. I understand the issue, and that generally is the case, is you're not quite used to those margins that you've seen before. But again, I want to think of it as part of a program as a whole. For example, one of my top clients, their brand recognition we do, yes, it's certainly on a lower margin, but I'd also say it's a much smaller part of their overall spend. It's maybe 10, 20% tops. And that's okay with that. There's kind of a trade-off. Yes, you may not get your traditional margins, but you're still helping them with that need. You're being that problem solver for them. So there's still an opportunity to profit off of these items.
And Guy, you have a great saying, and could you explain it to our audience? You can't put margins into your bank account. Could you explain that?
Right. Well, I've said that from day one. I explained it because I've been around brands all my life. I've selected that as my career path. It's been very good to me, by the way. You can't take margin to a bank. Banks take cash, not margin. So to reiterate what you and Eric were just speaking of, the average order in the promotional world is somewhere in the range of $600 to $900 as an average order industry wide. So if you're going to be making 40% of that, you're making $300 or $400 per order. And you got to do a lot of those orders to equal out what the incentive industry says the average order is $10,000 to $12,000. And if you're making 20 to 25% there, you're making $2,000 to $2,500. How many small orders do you have to do each week or each month to make that kind of money? At the same time, what do you get from, and the types of programs does it lead to in doing that? Eric's making now his change. He pivoted into program business via brand, and it's opening up different doors, more expensive doors, if you will. So the margin on a brand order, while it's not as much, still turns into more cash at the end of the day.
So Woody, you decided to, you've been adding brands to your mix probably what, for the last 10 years or so, I would imagine. This isn't a sudden thing.
Right.
But what made you decide to start broadening your business even beyond brands into programs? What made you decide to make that decision?
I'll answer that in a sec, but I want to expand a little bit on this concept that brands automatically mean lower margin. We were working on a project this morning with a Wall Street firm, and he really had his eyes set on an Adidas and Nike brand for his golf event, and we were able to find him some closeout opportunities that our margin's going to be probably 45%. So there's ways to skin that cat. To answer your question, Bruce, we have relationships with folks primarily in the financial services industry that are looking. I think Guy may have mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, comprehensive service, meaning can we answer or check a lot of boxes for them? These people are extremely busy. Their job descriptions are chock-a-block. They don't want to touch every item that they're considering to brand. And they want somebody to come alongside of them and cover printed materials and promo and digital. And so we are fortunate enough that we can do that for some of these folks. And that's effectively what we're trying to do, is increase the strength of the relationship so that we can do that for all of our clients.
And so the idea of selling programs would be a natural step. Well, Eric, you've done this. You've got, I understand your company has a solution for company stores. You have solutions for recognition platforms. How long ago did you guys make that shift? And is this an important growth part of your business or steady?
Yes, it's, well, to answer the first part there, I've been with this company right now for 4 years, and this program was well in place before I joined them. In fact, it was one of the main reasons I joined the company is previous companies I've worked for in this industry, this type of program can be a little intimidating. Like we've just mentioned, it can be a little scary. I've gotten calls before, with, again, prior employers where people want to talk about this and you get nervous. It's a scary thing. And I was so impressed with what they had with my current company here, Creative Studios, that I just couldn't say no. So it's been a significant growth part of the business. We've started focusing on it well before the COVID pandemic, but especially since then, we've definitely seen an uptick. That is one thing that I think it's very safe to say we've seen a pretty steep growth in since the pandemic, the rewards and recognitions. There's a need for it, and I think the need is stronger than ever. So it's definitely playing more and more, playing a larger part with our business.
Guy, I want to thank you. Guy, one of the points you've made, having watched the industry, and you and I were talking, we talk all the time, and before the pandemic, when it first began, we were all optimistic. Remember the V recovery, gentlemen? Remember that V, right?
Absolutely.
And now they're talking about a K if we're lucky. Okay. And I do think we're going to have, I've studied history. I do think we're going to have a roaring 20s when we get out of this, but it's going to be a little while more. But Guy, do you think, you made a comment about that a lot of distributors, as a result of what happened, did one of two things. They either pivoted to PPEs, and those who did have actually done pretty well. And that's going to be a permanent part of our business. Just travel in Asia, as some of you folks already have, and people have been wearing masks there for years. And whatever politically people might want to say in this country, masks do reduce the spread of any disease, not just the COVID, the flu for that matter. So we're probably going to be living with PPEs in one way, shape, or form, maybe for the rest of our lives to a lesser degree. But Guy, you made a point that the other half of distributors were really hoping that it would just come back, and that they could just keep pounding that horse, that it would come back. Do you think that promotional products as we know them are going to come back unscathed? Or do you think that they, like other business practices, are going to be shaped by what happened during the pandemic?
Well, I don't think that there's an industry out there that's going to come back unscathed. I think we've all learned valuable lessons in many forms, if you will. Promotionally, the industry has changed on our side. On the end user side, the customers, those people who are buying promotional items, that landscaping has changed as well. We're now working out of our homes, and for many, it's going to continue there. We're not having face-to-face meetings. The meeting gifts, if you will, may be changing. The drop-off promotional item may be changing, what I like to refer to as the handshake item. That's all that may be gone for a while. They may find there's not a specific need for that. What is there is to reach out to people and say thank you, to say, hey, are you okay? What can I do to help you? How can I be better for you? How do we reach out to those customers? And what type of merchandise would that be? We're changing as an industry, and we're going to continue to change. Your question was, are we going to come out of this unscathed? No, not even close. We're all going to continue to pay a price in the promotional side of the business as it transforms right before our eyes. Pivoting never changes. We should always be ready to pivot. We should always be looking for new opportunities. And what are those opportunities today? Because we need them. In 3 or 4 months, it may change again. But we have to recognize what is on the table right now, where the direction is, where it's going, and react to it. Not when it happens, plan on it. It's definitely here.
So Woody, from your standpoint, having made that transition already, do you think that promotional products are going to come back the way we always knew them to be? Or, we saw even before the pandemic, more and more articles in the big media and ASI and PPAI, the industry associations, of course, wrote scathing letters, I believe, to, Fast Company and Wired Magazine for really criticizing promotional products as being unsustainable. In a world of corporate responsibility and sustainability, do you think that the old notion of promotional products can ever come back the way it was? They'll never go away, but do you think it's just going to go back to the way it always was with promotional products?
Yeah, I tend to agree with the consensus here that it's definitely evolving. I think the sustainability aspect is part of it. I think, frankly, the factories have gotten more sophisticated. I think they're going to our end users directly. That's one of the drivers for us to shift and pivot into engagement as a business. So it's going to change. Where it ends up, I don't know, but I think there are a lot of components to it. Sustainability is definitely one of them, and technology. These factories have gotten more sophisticated on hitting the end user directly.
I mean, you can go on television right now. I see ads for a particular company all the time, where you can just order anything you want. They're even now saying they can offer brands. I actually saw one of them saying you can even get business gifts online from
Absolutely.
these companies. So, Eric, I know that you're not one of the owners. Your company is owned by two very dynamic women, I understand. And I asked you to come on as the frontline person here. From your experience, I would imagine you're pretty happy that your company pivoted this way. Do you see the traditional demand for promotional products, non-retail products coming back in the same way after hopefully we're all traveling again and with this terrible pandemic behind us?
Yeah, I think, I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone else here. The demand's going to come back somewhat. I'm starting to see more requests for your traditional promotional products, which is a nice change after so many quarters of it being a lot of PPE requests. That being said, things are changing everywhere. This industry, workforces, the way we look at work, where we're working, how our teams are interacting. There's just so much moving right now. And that's where I think as a distributor, my big focus has been on keeping up with those trends, being that problem solver and being that go-to for your client. As you mentioned, you can hop online and buy 1,000 logoed pens or 500 logoed tumblers, but my biggest challenge and our focus right now as a company is presenting that value as to why they come to us. And to do that, you need to be the expert. You need to keep up with the trends, keep pivoting, and keep relevant, keep providing solutions.
Well, that's a great segue to the question for Guy. Guy, as you know, in the promotional products business, there's an old expression, trunk slammers, right? People that just, basically, what do you need? I'll get it for you, Um, and Eric said something really important, that one of the big impediments for many distributors is fear that they don't know enough, and no salesperson ever wants to sell something that they don't know about. You really need to know about something. But Guy, does a distributor, if they're partnering with the right suppliers, how much do they really need to know? And how does it change your selling style? And should you really be changing your selling style anyway? So to unpack that question, what does a distributor need to know to effectively start selling solutions instead of product?
Well, I've always said that selling it comes down to two things: features and benefits. We got to know what it is that we're selling and why we're presenting it. You have to be able to tell that customer that the product that you're putting in front of them is X, Y, and Z, and here's what you can expect from that product. Now, in a marketing program or a reason that you're giving it for foot traffic, whatever it might be, show them what the return on their investment is going to be. Because that person is putting out hard-earned money to gain something. You're the expert in merchandise marketing. What is it that you're telling them? Oh, I can get this for you, and you're allowing them to make the decision for you. Be the expert. One of the things that this pandemic has taught us is communication, while important, changes. We've gone from face-to-face meetings and pop-in calls to Zoom calls, and it's been challenging. You can still pick up the phone and call somebody, but you get a voicemail. Why? They're at home. Their phone may not go directly to them. So whatever it is you're saying to them, it has to capture them. And what's going to capture them is to save them time, provide them the answer that they're looking for in a question they may have, but to show them that what we're presenting is for a reason, and this is the reason. Features and benefits. It comes down to that.
And Woody, one of the things is, I know one of your salespeople, and he actually used to work for a terrific company called Nordstrom, which is a company that's very much into engagement. What type of different selling style is needed in a solution sale? And in other words, even before you can get to features and benefits, don't you really have to find out what the customer needs? How important is a discovery sales approach in your field, rather than only, of course, you have to have the features and benefits, but you first need to know what the need is. So what do you think about the sales approach that's required now to be a solutions person like Eric is? And I'll get to you on that in a minute, Eric.
That is $1 million question, Bruce. And it's funny, I have a little bit of a testimonial that relates to it. I was going back into my LinkedIn and trying to connect with folks who had responded to some messages that I had sent. And one of the fellows this morning said, "Hey, nice to meet you. I really appreciate it that you didn't try and sell me something." So to your point, I think what we try and do is create a little bit of like and trust in the conversation that will hopefully lead to a 5 to 10 minute phone call that will explore any potential pain points and whether or not then we can get into the features and benefits part of it. But unless somebody has a need or is aware that they may have a need, i.e. they may have a pain point that they're not aware of, we probably don't get that far into the conversation. So it's a great question. And I think what we try and do is try and uncover enough rocks in their company to see if they may have a need that they're not aware of.
And Eric, since you sell programs and since you're a solution provider, I would imagine that you're probably, when you start a sales call, you want to start listening as soon as possible rather than talking. What advice or what do you try to do with your clients that might be different than what some traditional distributors might do?
So first of all, great points by everyone there. Yeah, you need to be able to listen, find out what their needs are. When I first approach a client about, whether it's just starting from scratch about promotional products, but especially with programs and whatnot, you need to do some digging. You need to ask the right questions. And again, kind of back to $1 million question, that's going to vary depending on the client, depending on the industry. One of the first things I try and do is I want to make sure it's a good fit for both of us. I want to qualify the prospect as much as I'm sure the prospect is trying to qualify myself or my company. You want to make sure it's a great fit. It may not be for everyone, but to me, that's one of the essential things to really get started with is, whether it's just a matter of convenience, a matter of program size, a matter of dollars and cents. You want to make sure this is going to, benefit both parties involved. And if it doesn't benefit, then try and take it from there. See how you may be able to help. Well, maybe instead of a rewards program, maybe we talk about doing something along these lines instead. Again, just trying to dig down, find out really what their core needs are, what their core challenges are.
So Guy, if a buddy of yours, who owns a company comes to you and says, Guy, I'm talking to this promotional products distributor. about maybe using her services, what advice do you give the corporate end user or the marketing agency when they're trying to select the right distributor to work with or the right agency? What advice would you give that buyer? In other words, to determine whether this is somebody they should really work with?
Less about asking questions in terms of should I work with this particular person rather than why would I go to them possibly. I mean, I get a lot of leads that come in from factories and I send them out to the distributor base, and I select distributors on a regular basis through my career to do that, based upon who they are and what they do and the services that they provide. So I kind of know my customer base to be able to lead them in the right direction. I mean, it's a great position to be in because the order is going to come back through me anyway. So that's a good thing. But it's based upon me knowing my customer. So they have to know their customer as well and what their needs are going to be. How much service do they need? How the process would work in terms of how they work. So if I know the end user and I can lead them to somebody, it's very easy for me to do that. It's much more difficult the opposite way where I don't know anybody involved, because I don't want to give the wrong information, have my reputation on the line at that same time. So again, just like we were talking about the sales process, we're gonna have to engage that buyer. We're gonna have to ask them questions, the types of services they're going to need. How familiar are you, with this? What's your marketing program right now? What kind of programs are you doing? What kind of needs do you have? To find out where they're at in their process possibly. But everybody's a little more sophisticated than the next guy. Somebody's not as sophisticated as another guy. You want to match people up with, with the right mojo, if you will.
So Woody, this whole notion of distributors, expanding their business, it would seem to me that on paper the opportunities are enormous because what type? Just give me an example, and Eric, I'm going to ask you too. Generally speaking, when you're working with a company, what titles are you generally in? What departments are you often working in? If you could just tell, because there's no full-time promotional products buyer, that doesn't exist. So what are the titles that you're often running into?
It depends on the size of the company. If it's a small to middle-sized company, it can often be the C-suite folks, as high as the CEO. But if it's a larger company, it's typically in marketing, occasionally in events. And we also work with HR folks as well. So it's usually one of those four: CEO, HR, marketing, or events.
Eric, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. It definitely matters, depending on the company size. If you would have asked me a couple years ago, I probably would have said it's the marketing people. That's what you go to the marketing people. And that still is the case. However, I feel like I've seen more and more, particularly with what we're talking about here today with the rewards and recognition program, is that's typically going through HR. And so more and more, I found myself either reaching out to HR first, or if I am reaching out to marketing, still talk to HR, because a lot of times they have very different needs. They have different operations. Quite often they have entirely different budgets. And so I have a few clients where, yep, I might do the promotional pens through here, but that rewards or recognition, their retirement program, that's going to be an HR matter. So yeah, like I said, more and more I'm seeing, great results approaching HR to help with their needs and initiate that conversation.
And Bruce, if I can add to that quickly, the question is, who do you reach out to? Well, if you're going to do a consumer promotion, you want to reach the brand manager. If you're going to be doing an incentive program that's going to be based on safety or wellness, a program of that nature, you're going to human resources or risk management. There's a term not a lot of people even know about. The C-level for gifting of employees. Right now, that's a great thing. The surprise and delight concept. Is there anything more hot than that right now? But you also have that whole merchandise and procurement section, which a lot of people never went to procurement particularly strong. That right now is a big deal. You're dealing with people, especially the people who deal with PPE, they know that right now. But those people also have a lot of buying power within the company and suggestive power. So, we have to know more about who to call on in the company. We also need to know the types of programs that are out there, the fact that premiums are making a big comeback right now, items that are being given for reasons. We gotta know what's coming back on the marketplace so we can go to those people, and then we have to know who to go to. So there's a lot of education and communication that needs to go on in our industry revolving around that. There's a lot of changes.
Well, and Woody, that leads me to you, because your website, you have two websites, your corporatevalues.com website, which is your traditional, let's say, promotional website. There are no products on it. There's no catalog on it. You can't go and search for a product on it. And that's not, and I know that's deliberate, and you can talk about that in a minute. But let me ask you, Woody, when you look at the people that you guys and Eric are calling on, it seems to me if you're positioned as an engagement solution provider, there's a lot more things that you could potentially provide than just even incentives and brands or gifts. Because think about it, that HR person, they might need an employee engagement survey. They might need a training program. They might need a new learning management platform. They might need an employee engagement app. With a website like yours, you can really position yourself as any type of engagement solution. And you've changed your website so that no one is going to look at your website and go, oh, wait a minute, you only sell tchotchkes, you only sell pens, because you don't even have a pen on your website. Do you see the potential, and Eric, I'm going to go to you on this as well, that as time evolves and, you know, HR and marketing departments are more stressed than ever, they're downsized more than ever, they have to know about all these different tools. That how can they, if they can't keep track of promotional products, how can they keep track of all these LMS tools? Isn't there a potential that some of you distributors can actually broaden your services and start to bring even more types of engagement solutions than just product? Do you see that as a potential roadmap for the future thinking distributor agency?
I do. And you and I have spoken a lot about the pressure on performance by particularly public companies, but private companies as well. They're going to look at the folks that are occupying leadership positions and challenging them to make sure that there's a return on what they're doing. So that sort of led me, Guy mentioned this earlier, that the landscape is changing rapidly, to look at how can we leverage our client base to provide needs that, again, they may not be aware of yet that they need them, but we'd like to try and educate them to think it's something that they want to consider. And we took the product listing down about a year ago. We had some pressure from a couple of folks to bring it back, so it's back there, but it's very inconspicuous, and it's not front and center like a lot of folks you see these days, where we view ourselves as doing the legwork. We don't want our clients spending a lot of time rummaging through 500,000 products to find what they're looking for. That's our job.
And Eric, how do you see that? Do you guys have already begun to expand? I mean, now obviously, if companies right now might not think that your company, creative, studios, can help them with a learning management platform, but those customers are buying learning management platforms. Do you think that there's a possibility? And Guy, I'm going to let you answer that as well after I get Eric's point of view. We're about ready to close the show. Do you see a day where you could go to when the shows come back? There might be, right now I go into those promotional product show and there's a sameness that is stunning. I mean, it's such a blur of products. It's almost dizzying, and it gets frankly boring. I mean, just one after the other. Do you ever think there's going to be a day where companies like yours are going to be selling technologies, HR solutions, marketing, digital solutions, creative solutions, technologies, and not products, or not just products? Do you see it going in that direction?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I see that as being an incredible add-on, an incredible service that we could offer our clients. And frankly, with some of your clients, you develop that kind of relationship and rapport. And I've had clients approach me before asking, saying, hey, we're thinking of doing a partnership with so-and-so, or just asking some very general marketing or advertising questions. And it's flattering. I also want to be careful what I say, because that's definitely not my role, or expertise. But I think if you're in a position where you're able to offer more solutions like that, whether it's, training programs, education, just general marketing assistance, whatever it may be, if you're in a position to do so, I would take advantage of that in a heartbeat, and I would start to pivot there. My only caution, I think it's something that you have to vet carefully. because one of my big personal things with my clients is I do not want to overpromise and underdeliver. And so if I'm going to approach my client and say, hey, we can help you with that kind of program, I want to make sure I've done my due diligence, I've done my research and set up these programs. But yeah, I see that becoming a part of the business. Again, I think whatever you can do to kind of be as much of a one-stop solution that you can, it's just going to be a benefit, and it's going to separate you from all the people that are just selling the trade show items. And there's a need for that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But again, I think the more you can bring to the table, you're going to put yourself in an advantageous position there.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because, for instance, Woody has built a very successful business helping companies supply gifting and promotions for events. Well, Woody, I can name about 4 different event marketing companies that would love to have you repping them. They would be tickled pink for you to be able to bring their solutions so that you could actually say to a client, gee, you're planning an event. I work very closely with a couple of these great companies if you consider doing business with them. And again, you're not going to get a 40% margin on that, but those could be a $400,000 program. And they might be very happy to give you a $5,000 finder's fee just for opening up that opportunity. And of course, at that point, if they need any brands, who's going to be first on the list to provide a brand solution, if of course you can provide it. So Guy, to end this up, do you think that the idea of pounding the promotional products, a horse, so to speak, is the future of our industry? Or do you think that most distributors had better pivot, or they're just not going to see the type of growth they had seen in the past?
Well, the atmosphere in general has changed. How we're doing business, where we're doing business, with whom we're doing business, and how they're using merchandise and product right now has already changed. So the days of the trade show giveaway right now, that's gone. How many items have you sold for a trade show giveaway? It's not there. Business meeting gifts, it's not there right now because everything has changed. Do I think that horse is going to continue to run? Well, right now that horse is laying down, and no matter how much you beat it, you're not going to get across the finish line. So you have to find other areas and other avenues with which to make your horse start running again. Some of the things we're talking about here with the program business, bringing brands to the front and center, to allowing that to work, that's all very, very important. And that is the key. That is the future, and the future is today. So yes, Bruce, it's changed. Do I see that the promotional product distributor's role is changing? It already has. And it's time to start running again, but by bringing what to the table, everybody has a decision to make. These guys have made a decision. It's worked out very, very well for them. And now that things are getting back on track to a degree, they're finding success. It's not that difficult. I think it was Eric who said originally how difficult it might be for some people. And I alluded to that as well, why people don't go into the brand area, because they're daunted by what they're seeing. It's not that hard, folks. It's just merchandise. It's just a program. It's not that difficult to understand. Thank God for the tools we have. Thank God for the organizations, the people like you, Bruce, who bring this to the table for them to learn in a very, very casual, calm atmosphere. End user, distributor, rep, whatever it be. Everybody can learn from what we're doing, pull it all together. We're going to be better off if we do that.
Well, folks, thank you very much, Woody K, Eric Pehrson, Guy Axen. Thanks so much for participating in this program. And yes, indeed, there's a bunch of free information here from the Brand Media Coalition and from the Enterprise Engagement Alliance. Everything you need to learn almost is available for free. You can find suppliers at the Brand Media Coalition, like Woody had referred to, that you can count on, master fulfillment companies from which you can buy brands. The Rewards Recognition Network will give you case studies, new products, new concepts. You can learn all about engagement program design at these various sites here. So I can promise everybody there are 20,000 distributors out there who are going to pivot. They're survivors, and they are going to, I am sure, either some of them are going to retire and say, I'm done, I don't need this anymore. But the young people like Eric and Woody and Guy are going to see this as a tremendous growth opportunity. So I think there's tremendous opportunity for this industry because there's nobody else out there. There is nobody else wandering the halls of HR or marketing or sales management that have the access to bring so many solutions to people. So those of you who pivoted to PPE, that's just the beginning. There's so many more opportunities for you in the whole world of engagement and brands. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, speakers. And we look forward to updating this program next year with seeing how much progress we made. Have a great day, everybody. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.